Greetings dudes and welcome to another video. So this is going to be part 2 of deck report. In the previous deck report I talked about Ritual Beast because that is the deck I've been playing in locals in this current format. Now we're going to talk about a deck that I've been casually testing. This is going to be for post Infinite Forbidden, and you're probably going to see a lot of very similar cards that you have seen on this channel before, because it is a variant of something that I've been playing before. However, there are going to be some notable changes, and I will get to them in this video. So yeah, without further ado, let's begin. So what I've been testing right now has been a variant of Centurion with Bestials. Everything I'm going to showcase you at this very moment is stuff that you've already seen. Like, for example, you've already seen like the Centurion cards. You've already seen like some of these cards. You will notice some different ratios. And then you have the Bestials, which if you've been on the track record of me playing Centurion this format, you already know that I've been playing like these cards already. They're like almost 20 cards into the engine. So what fundamentally changed now is that I'm playing less Centurion monsters in the main deck, and I'm not playing Branded Beast, but I'm still playing the 7 Bestial monsters. So I will explain why I did that. Let's go to the extra deck real quick. I'm still on Artemis. I mean, this used to be Striker Dragon. It was interchangeable between Striker Dragon and Artemis, but I'm going to Artemis now, and this will make a lot more sense when you see the rest of the deck. We're still in Heretic Seals because we're playing Bestials. We're still in IPSP because we want to play around D Barrier, and we still want to have an M board against Nibiru. We're still on Dispater, we're still on Calamity, we're still on Chaos Angel, Chaos Archfiend. I don't remember Cosmic Blazer was a new addition, but this is still in here. And you have the 2 Centurions and you have the Crimson Dragon. So everything I've shown you so far is not new. You've already seen all these cards. What has changed? What are the new additions that we have into this archetype, and how does Infinite Forbidden change the landscape of the deck? Well, we are going to talk about the Whitewoods. So you probably already know about Whitewoods by now if you're watching this video, but for those who don't know, this is a new light spellcaster illusion theme that is based on Diabell Star. By the time of this recording, we have another new archetype that also is tied to Sinful Spoils, which is called the Azaminas. I will talk about them in another video. But essentially, Whitewoods is a synchro-based turbo strategy that involves like light spellcasters, and they work really well with Centurion. Like they have a lot of synergy with the deck. They bridge a lot into the engine, and they pretty much like facilitate a lot of the deck's inherent issues, at least the Centurion issues, while also providing you like other forms of cards. So I'm going to move these cards right here, and I'm just going to show them all, and then I'll explain them. So we're playing 1 of each synchro. We're playing 3 Asteria, 2 Sylve, 1 Arcia, 1 Reset, triple Woes, and double Legend. So those are the Whitewood cards for now. There are other Whitewood cards in this theme, but I am not playing them. If you want to know about the Whitewood cards, I already made a video on them. But again, you probably already know about Whitewoods if you're watching this video. So, explaining my ratios, or at least I give a TLDR. This searches for a Whitewood if you control a spellcaster or illusion. This summons a Whitewood from the deck, and optionally you can synchro summon for a Whitewood monster This special summons itself from the hand and adds a whitewood. It's all one effect by sending a spell or trap. It's like a Drytron. This can special summon itself if you control a whitewood. And you can send one spell or trap into draw one card. This adds you a whitewood spell or trap. And this can summon a light spellcaster tuner from the deck. It doesn't have to be a whitewood. It can also be Centurion Primera, which is another reason why we're not maxing out on Primera anymore. So essentially this becomes your new starter, like the new card that you want to open with. The other one that you might want to open with is probably Sylve, but this is not a one card combo deck anymore, unless you open the Centurion cards. This is now a 2-card combo deck, but the 2-card combination results are super explosive. Now you have the Synchros. This can send a spell or trap to add a whitewood or as light spellcaster. You have Silvera, which is essentially Book of Eclipse and gives trample to your illusion and spellcasters. Diabel is a very strange one. If you use the Synchro to summon this, you can grab any spell or trap from your graveyard to your hand. So it's like, I forgot the name of that card, Nirvana High Paladin. The other effect is if your opponent activates anything, you can special summon a Synchro Tuner from your Banish, Graveyard, or extra deck. Which is really, really strong because you can reborn these, or you can just summon these from the deck. But you can also summon like other stuff, like for example, like Formula Synchron, like Crystron, Quandax, like stuff like that. But they pretty much made it so you special summon these out of her effect. So that's a little bit on the whitewood cards. So as I was mentioning earlier, the whitewoods just significantly bolsters this strategy. It just catapults like the end boards and the strong plays that the deck does. It does have its weaknesses. Like the one big weakness is the deck is no longer immune to Dimension Shifter. Dimension Shifter now really hurts this deck because you really want to send stuff to the graveyard. Another card that becomes really, really strong against this deck now is Droll Lockbird. Droll Lockbird is another really, really strong card. Whether or not those weaknesses circumvent like the ceiling and the power level that the deck receives, we'll just have to wait and see. This engine by no means is better than Feedsmith. However, it is a really, really potent engine, and it has a lot of merit because there's a lot of splashable cards that you can just play in this deck that also works well with it. One example is Effect Veiler. So, if you've been on track with me and Crystron and my deck reports, you already know that I'm not playing that many hand traps outside of Bestials. However, this is now a searchable hand trap because of Diabel. And if you can end on your end board with Veiler as part of it, it's really good because you have one form of interruption that is not from your board against your opponent. It's a telegraphed interruption, but Veiler just plays through a lot of stuff. So it pretty much puts your opponent on a cognitive decision of playing around this as well as your end board, which is not really easy to do. Another engine that's really, really strong is the Toy engine. These cards just came out in Battles of Legends. If you plan on playing Whitewoods, I highly suggest you pick these up because these cards synergize super well with Whitewoods. These are just free special summons that just gives you bonus effects if you resolve your Whitewood cards. And since the Whitewood deck is very resource intensive with your spell and traps, you kind of want cards that just mitigate those losses, and Toy Box is the one card that really does that very exceptionally. Until the Whitewood releases, these cards don't have a real strong merit in being played unless you pair stuff like, for example, Eldritch the Golden Lord. but until that, but like after the Whitewoods come out, these cards are just going to be very, very powerful. So one engine that has not been talked about, but I did test it out with the Whitewood deck, and I think this engine does have a lot of merit, at least in the Centurion version, and I'd say in Runic as well, and that is the the Rainbow Bridge package. So essentially, what this does is it gives you 2 free cards, including a field spell, if it's in your graveyard. So this just gives a lot of value out of your Whitewood cards, because in this specific deck, in the Centurion deck, it gives you 3 extra spell and traps for you to just cycle through with your Whitewood cards. But the other thing this card does is not a real brick if you don't like open or resolve your Whitewood cards with this, because this card has the field effect that is essentially a board wipe and graveyard wipe if there are 2 or more level 10 or higher monsters on the field, and Centurion excels at doing that. So essentially, this card can pretty much just like ruin an entire strategy by itself. This can just be used as a board wipe. In the worst case scenario, your opponent tries to break your board with their engine. Against the Jubel deck, this card is kind of funny because if they do the Nightmare Throne play and they end on Jubel plus Incarnate, or they try to go for Verudras by summoning like multiple Jubels, they are all level 10 and higher. So just them controlling those cards makes it so you can activate their Rainbow Bridge, which is very, very niche. You have to specifically play against Jubel for that, but it is something to keep at the back of your mind if you decide to play this engine. You don't have to play the Rainbow Dragon. The number one reason I played the Rainbow Dragon, it is because it is a light level 8 dragon monster. So it works with the Bestials, it works as fodder for like the Centurion field spell, and yeah, that's pretty much just the only merit behind this card. You can summon it off Dissipator, and you can make Heretic Seals with it, but that's pretty much it. Another thing that you can do is play like the Pegasus, the Crystal Beast Pegasus, with alongside another Crystal Beast, and that gives you cards in your spell and trap zone as monsters that you can send for your Whitewoods. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you're playing this engine. But yeah, this is like one example of another engine that I've been trying out. This one is like the more obscure one, so not a lot of people like know about this one. So another thing that really makes Whitewoods very, very competent as a deck, despite its glaring weaknesses, is this deck can play Floodgates. This deck can play like 1 or 2 Floodgates, and without you worrying about you getting yourself locked, because you can just send these Floodgates to the graveyard to activate some of your Whitewoods. Be cognizant that there is a ruling where you cannot send for cost if you cannot perform the effect. So be wary of that. For example, you cannot send away deck lockdown for Asteria, because this summons from deck and this prevents you from doing that. You cannot send this for Arceala either. But however, you can send deck lockdown for effects like example Arcea, because Arcea draws and doesn't like adds. So that's like one example for this card. These are 2 just more notable examples. So these are just like game ending cards on the spot. Like if this doesn't get limited, I can assure you like a lot of Whitewood decks are just probably going to play all 3 copies of this, because it's so easy to manage in this archetype. Another thing that really makes this deck really enticing, and I already like showed it, I already spoiled it, but you can play board breakers in this deck, uh, and without worrying about these being dead in your turn one. If you go first, like, one thing that I really don't like, and that's the reason you don't see a lot of more board breakers in my main decks, is that if they are not flexible for going first, they don't hold real value and they are just dead cards. But with Whitewoods, these cards are just fodder for their effects, and you don't care that you lose these cards because you're just getting supplemental advantage out of these cards that you're sending. So if you're going second, these are just fantastic board breakers you can use to just like pick apart your opponent's board. But if you go first, these are just fodder for your Whitewoods. So that's one approach that I can see a lot of people taking with this deck moving forward, and it's one of the really enticing things about Whitewoods that you should consider. But yeah, that has been like my deck report. This has almost been the list. Like, I've been swapping in and out of cards, but this is like my first actual draft of like the Whitewood deck, Centurion deck. I'd say, I think moving forward, this will probably be one of the decks I'll be playing this format. I might stick around with Ritual Beast still for a little bit. There is one other deck I've been testing. That deck will be on the next deck report, which will be next week. One of the reasons I'm going to delay it is because, one, I do have like teammates that are going to play that deck for the WCQ, North American WCQ, from my team. So I kind of want to keep the anonymity. And the other reason is, like, I kind of want to do a little bit more thorough testing before just giving you a concrete like hypothesis of that deck. But stay tuned for next week. We have another post Infinite Forbidden like deck report. But yeah, I hope you found this video informative to your liking and understanding. If you want me to talk more about Whitewoods during the week or on like the next deck report, feel free to like comment. But yeah, keep practicing and keep doing.